Hi everyone. So recently I had the opportunity to play Diablo 4 and we were able to play this press demo version. So we had access to quite a lot of parts of the game already. And today I want to talk about the world and the world map and just the size of it and how it feels. So I've been talking about the gameplay and etc. already in some other videos, but I want to highlight specifically the world itself. So when we were playing, we had access to the Fractured Peaks region, which is one of the 5 major regions that you're gonna have in Diablo 4 on launch at least. And I gotta tell you, it's actually really huge. So I have this map here that was on Reddit somewhere from a long time ago, from the BlizzCon 2019, where there was a demo. I wasn't there to play it, so I can't really tell exactly how big this area is. But apparently there were like some zones playable there that people were able to explore already. And as I said, now we had access to Fractured Peaks. So how big is Fractured Peaks exactly? How big is this world? Well, you can tell that all of the regions are roughly similar in size. So each of them covers like 20% or so, plus minus a little bit, I guess, in terms of the total like land area. And you can spend a lot of time in this region just exploring, trying to hunt down the Renown Objectives. So each of those regions is actually like split into certain like subzones again. So for example, we have, like one is like here, and then you have like another one that's like this part, and then you have like one here maybe, and then you have another one there and a small one here. So kind of like that. So there's like, I don't know, somewhere between like 8 to 10 of these zones per region. And then this whole thing is Fractured Peaks basically. And the same applies to the other regions as well. So, you have like, maybe something here and then something here and so on. And we weren't able to go there, but you could see the world map in game. And you can see that, there's different sizes of the various zones. Some are very small. For example, there's like strongholds that are like, very small zones. They're basically just like maybe like a fortress or so, or some like abandoned town. So they're like a bit smaller, and you go there and there's kind of like some instanced outdoor content that you can do, and then you can transform after you've cleared it. So that's actually pretty cool stuff. So parts of the world also change depending on your progression with your character. And for example, when I was playing through the press demo, it went up to level 25 and we were able to complete Act 1, which completely took place in Fractured Peaks. And playing through that Act 1 campaign on some moderate pace, I would say, was something like 3 hours or so. So you can definitely spend a lot of time just like going through the campaign itself. It's probably gonna be, upwards of 10 hours, even if you're relatively fast, and maybe more. And you can maybe speedrun it in as little as like a few hours, but it definitely seems like it's gonna take a while. So for example, in this campaign that we played, you start out somewhere here and you go around, and then you go somewhere else, and then you go like all over the place to like various objectives, do this, do that. And then you end up somewhere, like back in a town or something after you've done everything. And all of that takes like a few hours. But when you're done with it, it's not all, because you only have completed so much of the zone. There's like lots of like scattered little pieces that you have explored. But there is still, like all this other area where there's side content, side quests, dungeons, these strongholds, for example. You can find certain like local events. You can find the world events that are bigger than those. And there's a lot of stuff going on in each of those zones. And for example, just like walking, I'd say, like through one of these subzones, like just like a straight line, that will already take you probably like several minutes in most cases. So I mean, most of the time you can't really do like a straight line, but you have to go like, maybe around some mountains and hills and, some path. And then you have to climb somewhere here. And then, you can kind of go like this maybe. But in general, these zones are pretty massive, and even just going around and exploring can take you hours for this Fractured Peaks region alone. For example, there's also those altars of Lilith, which are these little statues you can find all like hidden around the world. These are these little like objects. Here is one of them, just in the stronghold actually. So you can click them, and then this is like a one-time like permanent power gain for all of your characters. And for example, in this Fractured Peaks region, I believe there were 28 of these, and they are definitely hidden quite well in some cases. So I was actually trying to find some of them, And even after like 3 hours running around, being very careful, you know, trying to look at every single corner in these little nooks and crannies and stuff, I had like half of them or something. So maybe I'm really bad at finding them, but you can definitely spend a lot of time like going around the world, finding little curiosities, finding these little objects, finding, yeah, like, you know, new places to farm as well. Certain like unique monsters that spawn in certain places and drop certain loot. So that exists as well in Diablo 4. And lots of really cool stuff. And the thing is also that not only is the world pretty massive, but the pace of the game and the travel speed is also relatively low. So there are ways to speed up the traveling. There are waypoints all throughout the world. So for example, in this Fractured Peaks region, I think we had 7 waypoints. So you could unlock some of them over time, for example, through those strongholds here. There's Nostra stronghold, I think, that actually transforms into like a town with a waypoint later. So when you see this finish here, you can see that this is the waypoint icon, for example. So you can create more waypoints, so to say, by unlocking them. And otherwise, you can just go around and find these waypoints and click them. And you can TP to them at any time, like at no cost. And this kind of makes it so that the world is connected and you can go to different places in a relatively short amount of time. But if you are literally just like going out of town, exploring and finding monsters, trying to find these altars of Lilith, for example, you can see that with the pace of the game, this will take a long time for each region. So there's a lot of content to explore. And this doesn't even count like the events and the side dungeons that you can also go into that kind of expand the world even further. So all throughout the world here, you have like these little dungeon entrances everywhere basically. And I think there's like, yeah, 23 or something in Fractured Peaks. So they're basically in various places here. And you actually have to go and travel to those dungeons to enter them. So it's not like in Diablo 3, for example, where you stand in town all the time and you open a Nephilim Rift or a Greater Rift and you go in there and you come out and repeat. But instead you actually travel around. And then again, for example, you have like waypoints, you know, they're like scattered throughout here. So you can TP to any of them and then just walk to the dungeon. That takes, yeah, depending on the distance, you know, maybe like 20 seconds to maybe a minute or so. Somewhere around that number, I'd say, is like the travel time if you exclusively walk and not really find anything on the way. But sometimes, you know, you go around and you find like an event here and it's like already half completed because someone else is already there, or it's like one of those, you know, really nice and fast events, so you kind of want to do it. Or maybe you'll find, you know, some big elite packs at least that are really juicy, give you some XP and loot. Maybe you find a treasure goblin. So there's always something to kind of like distract you as well on your way to something you actually want to do. And all of this makes it so that you definitely have a lot of things to do and you go through the world quite slowly, and there's always, you know, something you chase or something you find that is like pretty interesting and that will help you in your character progression and stuff like this. And if I had to guess, to just complete like everything, you know, do all the dungeons, do all the side quests, do all the exploration and the altars of Lilith in just this Fractured Peaks alone, and then also the campaign on top, yeah, I would say this is going to be like an easy 20+ hours, even for like rather experienced players. Now the good part is, if you don't like a particular region, you don't have to do like everything. So the one thing you really don't want to do is the altars of Lilith, because they are like, you know, their own thing and their own power boost. But when it comes to, for example, side quests and these dungeons, you don't really have to do all of them. So I would say maybe like half or so is kind of like the number that you want to do because of this renown system. I will explain this more in detail, but this is some kind of like side content progression like system that, for example, unlocks more skill points. So you can also do this from various objectives like the quests, the dungeons, etc. And you can kind of choose which content you like more. So you can do this, you know, side quests if you like, and then just do all of them and you're basically done. Or you can do all the dungeons and you're basically done, or you mix it a little bit. So you don't have to spend like, you know, these 20 hours, let's say, in Fractured Peaks. You can do it probably on in like, you know, 5 to 10 hours if you really speedrun the Renown. But if you want to do like the full completion, it will be a lot more. And then there's, for example, also the towns. So we have Kiora Shard here. This is like the main city in Fractured Peaks. And I also really like the detail that has gone into building those towns. So you can see this is like a really massive like place in the middle of this region basically. And this is like the main hub here. You have like all the vendors, you have the waypoint, You have the world tier difficulty statue. So this is kind of like a place where you start out and where you also meet other people. You can see people walking around there, and you can trade or you group up or whatever. You can just find certain quests here. And there's going to be more of these like all throughout the world as well. So these main cities and then also smaller towns or just outposts that you can find. And for example, there's other starting point for quests, or there's other vendors. You can find, you know, like waypoints there again. I believe that especially this exploration part of the world is going to be a pretty amazing activity, especially for the more casual players. There's going to be a lot of things to see. And it's also quite likely that we're going to see an expansion of the world, either in seasonal updates or at the very least in expansions. So you can see like the full sanctuary map here, and it is actually pretty massive. And theoretically, they could, you know, add so many more zones. You can already see like parts of this here, for example. So this is already like I think on the map actually, like not like as a zone that you can like open and then see the details, but it's like, you know, kind of like indicated. So there is stuff like this, for example, and, you know, you might get like, you know, expansion 1 is like this entire like, you know, continent. This could be like another, you know, 3 extra regions or something like that, similar to those that we already have. And then, you know, you might get expansion 2 that is like something like this here. And then you get like expansion 3 that is like this. And then, you know, we'll see, I guess. But realistically, I could definitely see them expanding this a lot and making this a lot larger, even going from what we have already. And it's going to be like a massive world. And going maybe in a similar direction with like what World of Warcraft is doing, for example, adding new continents and having like this whole new area to explore at some point. I think this could go very well in Diablo 4 with this open world. And let's see what the future holds for us. This is it for what I have to share here for the world map in Diablo 4 so far. So Sanctuary is a massive place. There's a lot of potential for exploration and also for Blizzard to add even more stuff into it. But I gotta say, for now, it's already looking really cool, really like an expansive world with lots of stuff to do. And I'm quite excited to try it all out. So I hope you enjoyed this preview here, and I'll see you guys next time.